Good afternoon and welcome. Let's take a look at the top story that we are tracking for you. 3,000 Russian troops conducted live fire exercises in western Russia on Tuesday, including areas close to Ukraine. This is according to reports filed by Interfax news agency. The announcement of the drills came a day after Russia and the US held talks on Moscow's security proposals in Geneva. Now, the meeting did not reach a breakthrough. Interfax quoted the Western Military District saying exercises would take place in Somlensk region near Belarusian border and in the Voronezh, Volgorodo and Bryansk regions closer to Ukraine. Now, it also said that 300 units of military hardware would be involved. The exercise is aimed at practicing fire from armored vehicles and firearms, organizing marches during active enemy sabotage, reconnaissance activity, and equipping strongholds.
In recent months, they have done so in a manner that was clearly not an attempt to be furtive or stealthy. It's hard to be stealthy when you're moving 100,000 forces along in internationally recognized borders. That underscores and undergirds our concern. And the fact that this was done and is being done in an effort to intimidate and an effort to coerce.
Meanwhile, Russia is all set to lay out security demands today. The recent talks between the US and Russia show that the two sides have some major differences to bridge. NATO diplomats say the Western alliance is ready to negotiate with Moscow on military drills. They aim to avoid accidental clashes that could spark conflict. However, NATO allies also say that some of the demands put forward by Russia in December last year are unacceptable. Now, this includes calls to scale back alliance's activity and promising not to take in new members. Meanwhile, the US and Ukraine say that they remain united in seeking to defuse the standoff with Moscow through diplomacy. Dmytro Kuleba spoke with Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He said that the two nations are working closely to deter Russian aggression. Russia has made the West nervous by stationing troops near Ukraine. The country has also demanded Washington to never let Ukraine join NATO or to expand military alliance eastward. Now, this is a request the United States refuses to accept. Washington says that Moscow has stationed as many as 100,000 troops. The US has urged Russia to reverse the military buildup. West fears that Russia is planning a new invasion against Ukraine. However, Moscow says that it has no intention of launching an attack and that it has every right to move its soldiers around within its own territory. Now, we are being joined by Dr. Anna Mateva, who is a Russian affairs analyst. For more on this story, thank you for being with us on this broadcast. Now, 3,000 Russian troops conducting live fire exercises yesterday. This just a day after talks between the US and Russia on the security proposal in Geneva. What do we make of these latest actions by Russia?
Russia is trying to send a geopolitical signal to the West that it is not going to accept the repetition of the 1990s scenario when NATO has been expanding close to Russian borders, for instance, in the Baltic states. And Russia could not really do anything about it, rather than just raising its voice and saying, we're unhappy. The Western reply was, okay, you're unhappy, that's your problem. Now Russia thinks that they need to actually make their point in much more forceful way. So it's nothing to do with actual preparation for any action in Ukraine. I think that it's really off the mark. But it is something which should make the United States, which is the primary audience, and its European allies to take Russian concerns seriously.
Right. Now, the US and NATO have said that some of Russia's demands are unacceptable, such as Washington never letting Ukraine join NATO or to expand the military alliance eastwards. Take us through the significance of these demands by Russia. And further, is the promise of tough sanctions enough of a deterrent?
Yes, they are very significant because Russia wants to determine the future European security order, and which ultimately make it less militarized. From Russian point of view, they are concerned about increased militarization of Ukraine, and they want to prevent it from turning into a military garrison, even if it doesn't join NATO formally. From the United States point of view, they want to reduce the talks to more technical aspects of arms control. How many missiles are deployed, where they are deployed, confidence building measures, reduction in military exercises on a reciprocal basis. So they are kind of talking about two different things. From Russian point of view, first, new European security order should be redefined, and arms control, troop movements, and all sorts of technical details should follow from that. From the United States perspective, the European security order has been defined, and they do not wish to reopen this page again.
Now, right, Doctor, in your opinion, what are we expecting from the talks today between Russia, NATO, and the US? Is this coming down to a decision that Russia has to make between conflict and diplomacy?
I don't think we are looking at decisions either today, or we are not looking at decisions at tomorrow's meeting at the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. These are the outlets to make sure that for Russia that its voice is heard. It's kind of more scoping and probing the ground from where you can then start to have some kind of expert consultation process to see where agreements are possible. So this is much more of a kind of general political statement and sort of testing the waters, rather than preparing grounds for any kind of firm agreement at that stage. From Russian point of view, they would like to see the process unfolding pretty fast. We are probably not going to see that happen, but we would see to what extent Russian concerns are being taken seriously. And that will be the important conclusion of today's meeting.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.